Have you ever noticed that many people dream of success, talk about achieving financial freedom, and want to live a better life, but never get past the stage of fantasy? It's as if everyone carries great desires, but few truly turn those desires into something tangible. Desire by itself is worthless if it's not organized into concrete plans. And this is where one of the most powerful principles of the philosophy of success comes in: organized planning. Without it, any dream gets lost in the air. With it, even the most improbable idea can take shape and change a person's destiny. Organized planning is like giving a physical body to something that was until then just an emotion or a desire. Imagine for a moment someone who wants to start their own business. As long as that desire is only in their mind, it means nothing. But when that person writes down their goals, maps out strategies, thinks about deadlines, seeks out partners, and starts to act, what was just a dream turns into a real construction. This is the power of planning. The truth is that many people fail not because they don't have good ideas, but because they can't organize them into clear, executable plans. How many projects have you seen start with enthusiasm, but die in a few weeks because there was no structure? Enthusiasm without a plan is like a fire that burns brightly for a few seconds and then goes out. The plan is the wood that keeps the flame burning. And there's another fundamental detail that few people understand. No one achieves anything great alone. The isolated genius is a myth. We call this a mastermind, the union of two or more minds in harmony working for a common purpose. Think of Henry Ford. Many people believe he was an isolated genius, but the truth is that Ford surrounded himself with engineers, administrators, and specialists who gave his ideas form. Edison, when inventing the light bulb, didn't work alone in his laboratory. He relied on a dedicated team, testing thousands of combinations until he found the right one. This principle remains more relevant than ever. Elon Musk, as visionary as he is, would not have built Tesla or SpaceX without teams made up of some of the greatest talents in the world. The same goes for Jeff Bezos, who turned a small online bookstore into one of the largest companies in history because he knew how to attract people who complemented his skills. Now, why do most people fail? The answer is simple but brutally honest. They give up at the first failure. They create a plan, encounter the first obstacle, and throw everything away. What differentiates winners is not the absence of failures, but the ability to adjust plans until they work. Thomas Edison failed hundreds of times before creating the light bulb. Each failure was a lesson, not a reason to give up. Abraham Lincoln lost several elections before becoming president of the United States. Walt Disney even went bankrupt before founding the empire we know today. What these examples have in common is persistence in the face of failure and the ability to review the plan instead of abandoning the dream. They understood that planning is not static. It requires constant review. A plan might be perfect today, but tomorrow, the market changes. Conditions change, life changes. That's why flexibility is an essential part of this principle. Planning is not about drawing a fixed path that never changes. It's about charting a direction and being ready to correct the course whenever necessary. One of the most striking examples is that of Dr. Frank Gonzalez. He wanted to found a new university, but needed $1 million for it, a fortune at the time. For 2 years, he only dreamed, but did nothing. Until one day he decided he would get the money in 1 week. He announced that he would preach a sermon called "What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million." And when he stepped up to the pulpit, he didn't ask for money. He spoke with so much conviction, so much clarity, and so much passion about the project, about what the university would represent for the community and for the future, that a businessman named Philip Armour, who was in the audience, felt moved to finance the project. The result was the birth of the Armour Institute of Technology. What changed? Only one thing: the decision to turn a desire into an organized plan, with a defined deadline, and more importantly, with a clear action to make it happen. He moved from fantasy into execution. Another example is that of Asa Candler. He bought the formula for a tonic, invented by a doctor, for $500, which would later become Coca-Cola. The formula had existed for years. What turned a simple recipe into a multi-billion-dollar empire was not the liquid in the pot, but Candler's ability to plan the distribution, advertising, and expansion of the brand. The formula was just a starting point. What made the difference was the organized planning applied with discipline. And here is one of the greatest lessons for the modern world. Imagination can give rise to ideas, but it's planning that sustains them. Today, we see startups emerging every day, but only a small percentage survive for more than 5 years. And do you know why? Because many start with enthusiasm and great promises, but not with solid plans. Those that survive and become unicorns, valued at billions of dollars, are the ones that create clear growth models, establish metrics, attract qualified teams, and adjust their strategy as the market responds. They understand that success is not an accident, but the result of planned execution. But planning is not just for businesses or big projects. It can and should be applied to anyone's life. Imagine someone in debt. The desire to get out of debt is important, but without a plan, nothing changes. With a plan, that person lists all their debts, puts interest rates and deadlines on paper, decides which to pay off first, using strategies like the snowball, focusing on the smallest debts, or the avalanche, attacking those with the highest interest, sets a fixed amount to pay off every month, and constantly reviews their progress. That's how the impossible begins to seem possible. Or think about someone who wants to create an emergency fund. It's simple to say, I want to save money. But the magic only happens when the person calculates their monthly costs, sets a goal of having 6 months saved, decides to save a fixed amount every month, and tracks their progress until they get there. This is organized planning in action. And the same goes for anyone looking to create an extra income. It's common to hear, I want to earn more money, but that's not a plan. When the person identifies a skill, studies ways to monetize it, rates a schedule of weekly goals, tests different strategies, and measures results, they move from desire to execution. This is the point where life changes.
Planning is also the key to dealing with risks. Many people avoid investing because they believe it's risky, but the real risk is not investing. It's investing without a plan. The intelligent investor distributes their money across different assets, understands deadlines, calculates scenarios, and diversifies their sources of income. They don't depend on luck. They follow a regularly reviewed plan that protects them from market surprises. It's curious to note that, even in emotional matters, planning makes a difference. The fear of failure, the fear of criticism, and procrastination destroy more dreams than a lack of resources. People who wait for the perfect conditions never act. They get stuck in analysis paralysis. But those who accept imperfection, create a plan, and adjust along the way always end up moving forward more. They understand that acting with an imperfect plan is always better than standing still waiting for perfection. The truth is that the world is not kind to improvisers. Improvisation can work in specific situations, but it cannot sustain a lifetime of success. Planning is what separates those who just survive from those who prosper. It's the difference between always putting out fires and building a solid house, brick by brick. Ultimately, what Kiyosaki shows us is that the biggest mistake most people make is not a lack of desire or a lack of intelligence, but a lack of organized planning. Desire without a plan is like wind without direction. The plan is the element that transforms energy into movement. So if you really want to change your life, it's not enough to dream, it's not enough to believe, it's not enough to imagine. Get a piece of paper, write down your goals, put a plan together, and start acting. If you fail, adjust. If you fall, get up. If it doesn't work, make a new plan. But never stop planning. Because in the end, the difference between those who achieve and those who just desire lies in this simple detail. Winners plan, the others just dream. And if this content makes sense to you, I want to ask for one simple thing. Like this video, leave your comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. It costs you nothing, but for me, it makes all the difference because it motivates me to continue bringing content like this, which can transform the way you see money, work, and your own life. I'll finish up here, and I'll see you in the next video.